About 30 more seconds, we'll take introductions.
Good morning, Erica Powers, Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Good morning.
Mayor Street, Melville, Georgia.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning, Rock Clean Team Elite Chicago, and we're excited about Triple Diamond Elite. Chris Estes is coming to Chicago tomorrow, 9 o'clock. You can register on Facebook, get your people there, and Chris will get them signed up.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Good morning, Cheryl Brown, Salt Lake City, Utah.
Good morning,
Georgia. Good morning, Georgia.
Good morning. All right. It is just a little over the top of the hour, so we'll go ahead and get started. This is typically Ryan Gold's call, but he is overseas in the Philippines, and he asked me if I would do it, so I felt honored to have the opportunity to do the Go Diamond Focus call, not just on Freedom Friday, but at the end of the period, the end of the promotion. Friday coming up before the next period opens up is always an incredible time to encourage people to push just a little bit harder, go the extra mile. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dee Dee Shaw. I am a seated independent distributor, and I am calling in from Forsyth, Georgia, which is a little bit south of Atlanta. We have 14 kids, so typically I'm not on this 9 o'clock call. I'm typically doing homeschool things and working with my kids, but it was just an honor to be able to get on this call this morning. I've also asked Doug Stroop to join me this morning. We're going to do a little bit of Q&A back and forth. We've done that in the past on calls and have enjoyed doing that. So Doug is going to be with me this morning. But first and foremost, I wanted to remind everybody, this is the end of the promotion. This is the end of the X Factor promotion. So be sure that you reach out to everybody on your team that might just need one more person in the system to reach that circuit being closed up. So that's one thing I wanted to be sure that we talked a little bit about was that promotion. I also wanted to remind everybody that if you have not registered for convention, you need to do so. If you are on this call, it should not be negotiable. You should be there. What we hear all the time is you won't get rich and you won't get to the top of the company going to convention, but all the ones that go to the top of the company do go to convention, so you don't want to miss out. Doug, are you here with me?
Yes, Dee Dee, I'm here.
I want to make sure you were on the moderator line with me. What I wanted to talk about this morning was leadership, Doug, because if you want to be a diamond, the only way to be a diamond is to be a leader. And there's some qualities of leadership that I thought maybe we could focus on a little bit. And it goes back to this, you need to be at convention. Successful people do what other people won't. And I think it was not too long ago I talked a little bit about what I did to get to a convention in the past where I bought a plane ticket and had no conference ticket and had no place to stay and just stepped out on faith. But I think leaders do that a lot, Doug. They just step out on faith. And we stretch ourselves beyond what most people would do. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I certainly agree. I think it goes back to vision. If you have the vision for what this company is, what we have here in our hands, what it offers us, for our future, for our families, and all the lives that we can touch as a result of, everything we have here with NZH International, you're going to just do whatever it takes to get there. And, I have some amazing stories, tremendous stories of how people truly sacrificed, as you were just mentioning, just to get to convention because they realize the impact that it'll have not only on them, but also on their future, on their family, and on all the lives that they'll be able to touch, as they begin their journey with Zija. So yeah, definitely they can do whatever they got to do and sacrifice whatever they need to get to convention, because it really will be that powerful with all the changes that it'll make within their own team and their own future. So it's a very, very exciting time, and everybody needs to be there.
Well, I'll just add another quick little story to that. I met with a distributor yesterday who the timing has just become right for her to get engaged, and we sat and we talked a little bit, and we talked a little bit about convention. And last night she said, "Do you think it's important?" And I said, "Absolutely." And she said, "Is it worth putting it on a credit card?" And I said, "It'll pay you back tenfold." So this is what she did, and when she did this, I could just feel her rising up in leadership. She had frequent flyer miles that she was saving for her vacation. She used her frequent flyer miles last night to book her tickets. So it's not too late, and it's not too late to be creative. But when you step out in faith, it does something to your posture. It does something to your belief in yourself. It does something to who you are as a leader. So I would just encourage everybody to don't prejudge your distributors. Reach out to distributors that you think could have the potential to be a leader. And who would that be? That would be everybody. Reach out to everybody that's engaged and make sure they understand the importance of being at convention. And if you've never been to convention, or you feel like you're not the right person to talk to them, that's where those power line calls come in. Get your upline to be there for you, to help you validate how important convention is. And that just goes back to one other thing, Doug. I think even as leaders, for us to go to the next level, we have to go back to the basics. Do you use the system, or do you deviate from the system? And that's so important, because as we become leaders, we get to the point where we feel like we don't want to bother our upline. We get to the point where we feel like we can handle it all ourselves. And then it all starts falling apart, because our new distributor thinks they have to be where we are to be successful. So even as leaders, I know, Doug, you and I spent a good bit of time on the phone yesterday while you were on vacation. I spent a good bit of time on the phone with Fred. This is what we need to do as leaders. We need to remember what the basics are, because what we do is what our people are going to do.
You're so right, Dee Dee, and I've heard it said that as soon as you sponsor one person, you're a leader. And how many people accept that? How many people realize that? Because now you become a leader to that first person that you sponsored. And they're going to look to you at us. They're going to look to you for the training. They're look to you for answers. And we need to step up to the plate and become the leader that our team and our growing team is expecting us to be, and is looking at us to be their leader. And so, you hear the phrase, well, that's what leaders do. And I get asked questions all the time, well, why'd you do that, or why'd you do this or that, whatever it may be, and I'll just say, well, that's what leaders do. You have to step up to the plate and become a leader, and as you mentioned at the top of the call, leaders will be at convention, because that's what leaders do. But they won't just be there by themselves. They're going to take parts of their team with them. They're going to encourage their team and, to be there with them. And certainly if you attend convention and you have someone there with you from each of your teams, we have a left leg and a right leg. If you have people there with you from each leg or each team, you will become the leader of those folks that are following you there. They're going with you, and you all together will be able to see some tremendous growth. We've seen so many things happen as a direct result of attending convention, and how it truly does catapult or boost your business to the next level and beyond. So I know we've got people behind that are striving, towards and pursuing towards the higher pen ranks. This is definitely a way for you to do that along with your team.
Doug, I just think back over the last few years, and I'm sure you can do the same thing. The first year that I was at convention, I had just a handful of people there on my team. But what that did for those few people empowered them to go back and be leaders. And so the next year, I didn't just double the number, it was probably triple the number. And again, last year, we saw that same sort of growth. And this year I'm so excited because I've got not just the people that have been in the past, but I've got new people going, and I know how much it's going to raise them up and help them to be leaders. And here's the other thing I just want to mention, and then we'll go on. We'll talk a little bit more about leadership and what leaders do. But I just want to mention this. A lot of times when we bring somebody brand new on board, we think they're not going to want to spend the money to go to convention. Or they haven't made any money yet with ZJ, so I'm not even going to ask them to spend that money for convention. We forget this is a business. We forget how important it is for us to put money into our business for our business to grow. So, again, if you don't have the posture to go and talk to your people, be sure that you get a leader on the line to talk to your new people, to encourage them to see how important it is. And I think back about my first year, because I joined in September. And October rolled around, and a lot of you have heard my story. Finances were why we got involved in ZJ. So I was not able financially to make it to that first convention. And I look back and I think, where would I be today? Would I be at Double Diamond today? Because I lost a year. It wasn't that I didn't grow in that first year, but there were so many things that I would have been doing differently had I been at convention that first year. So, again, don't just think about people that have been in for a while and you feel like this will be good training to add on top of what you've done. Think about your brand new guy and how empowered a brand new person would be to start on the right foot, to not do things the wrong way in the beginning, to not have to backtrack and learn how to do things differently. So with that, Doug, I just want to move on a little bit. Personal development. Would you agree with me, Doug, that personal development is probably the most important thing that we can focus on to become the leaders that we want to be?
Dee, I totally agree with that. And not only do I wholeheartedly agree, I participate in that myself on a daily basis. Even as leaders, even once we become leaders, we must continue to be, as we hear all the time, coachable and teachable. And a big part of becoming who your team needs you to be as a leader is doing the personal development. There's so many stories, Dee, of how we have seen this not only affect our own lives, but the lives of many, many of those throughout our organization as they commit themselves to the personal development. It's amazing to see the transformation that takes place in them as they, step up to the plate and truly become an excellent leader, for their team. But yeah, it all boils back down to personal development. That's extremely important.
Well, I know how much I have grown as a person as I have worked on my personal development. And people are always asking, what's the best book? What's the best book? And my answer is the one that you apply. There's so many good books out there. Almost all of the books that you'll find on anybody's top 25 list are going to overlap. You're going to see people name the same books over and over again. That's a good place to start. But understand you can read all the books in the library. And if you're not actually applying those books, they're not going to do you much good. And so everybody, I think, has a different, that's my favorite book. But I did want to talk about just a couple of books that, not my Game Changer book. My Game Changer book is one that was really a mindset issue for me. So if people have problems with thinking, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter, that was my Game Changer. And I read that book, I can't even remember how many years ago, but it opened my mind to the possibilities of what life would be like to not be feeding the negative and to be feeding the positive all the time. And so that book is not one you'll find on many people's top 20 list. But for me, because of my negativity, because of what I had grown up with, that book really opened up my mind. Recently, I read Darren Hardy's book, The Compound Effect. That book, I think, is a must-read for anybody in this industry. Because a lot of times we hear the stories of how somebody rose to the top in 6 months. And one thing that happens is the stinking thinking kicks in, and we say, why not me? Or we start saying, it must be because of this, this, or this. We're not thinking, how can I do that? Or we didn't get there in 6 months, and so we get frustrated. And I really think learning the compound effect, understanding it, and a companion book would be Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, but I really like the compound effect better, just in the way the message is delivered. But that book will really open up your mind to understand that it is inevitable for you to get where you want to go if you do the right things, do them consistently on a daily basis. You may not get there as fast as you want to go, but it is inevitable that you will be successful if you do the right things daily. So that book, and then the other skill set book, I know you'll hear any leader recommend this book, but I just think it's foundational for skill set, and that's 45-Second Presentation by Dan Phala. I think everybody uses those techniques even before they read that book, but it solidifies and helps you understand this is how to build this business. It's not a business of selling product. It's a business of duplicating. So I'll just turn it back to you, Doug, and let you just talk about any books that you might have that stand out for you.
Sure, I'd be glad to, Dee Dee. One of the biggest ones that stands out in my mind, you mentioned the compounding effect. We talked about the Slight Edge. There's so many wonderful, wonderful books out there. The one that I have been reading and referring back to the last few months for my own personal development, it's called The Winning Attitude by Maxwell. And, John Maxwell is going to be one of the keynote speakers at convention this year. So just my little side note there, corporate has really, really gone the extra mile to beef up or enhance or whatever you may be this year's convention, and so that every year is just building upon the previous year and becoming bigger and better, and all of those things. So this year, as I mentioned, John Maxwell is one of the keynote speakers, and so it's going to be wonderful to hear what he has to say. But you were talking about different books and personal development. There's so much positive and negative talk that goes on all around us every day. But how does that affect our own personal attitudes? And how does our attitude affect our leadership and our team? I believe, need to be making sure that we're speaking positive things, positive talk, into the life of our distributors, and helping them to continue to grow as well. Because, as I mentioned, we're all going to face negativity. We're all going to face, there's people out there that just the very first thing is negative. So we want to make sure that we're returning that in a positive. And that's where that has really helped me to make sure that I have a winning attitude, right? That even when things do happen that are bad or they're negative or that look like, it brings you down or gets you frustrated or whatever it may be, your attitude is what's going to keep you on top of the thing and what's going to keep you to continue going on being a really good, solid leader for your team. So that's one of the ones that I've really gleaned from, and even been able to teach a few things to some of my leaders, as to what I'm learning in that book, just about how important attitude is. And again, I think that's what leaders do. Leaders will, to the best of their ability, maintain that positive, winning attitude, regardless of what happens throughout the team, right? Always keep it positive and, be putting forth a good positive attitude, and that's going to continue to help be the leader you need to be, as well as to be feeding into the lives of your distributors and your team. So that's been a great one for me.
Well, Doug, I don't think you can go wrong with any of John Maxwell. He is a prolific writer, and I have quite a few of his books. I think Today Matters is another one that he's written that I really like. He has several different books on leadership. 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, that's a great one. It really helps you to look and scrutinize yourself and see where you fall short. And one of the laws that he talks about is actually the very first one. And again, it helps you open your mind, the law of the lid. You are the leader for your organization. If your organization is stuck and not growing, there's a reason for it. You are the lid to your organization. So you have to raise yourself up, step up, and it makes me go back and think about what I heard for so many years and I just didn't process it. Was be the leader that you want to attract to your business. And I didn't get that for so many years. You know, the whole attraction marketing thing. Don't go chasing after people. Become so attractive that people chase after you. And it's not until you get into these personal development books that really starts to cement in your mind what that means. But I highly recommend John Maxwell. I'm so excited. I also love Les Brown. I love his YouTube video. All you can do is all you can do. So, you know, I'm really excited about these keynote speakers and what we'll be able to glean from them and all the training that we're going to have. But again, if you're not spending time in personal development, you're not going to grow. You may bring new people to your team, but if you don't grow as a leader, then you're not teaching them how to be a leader. And your team is, if you're not growing in this industry, you're dying. And if you're bringing people in and you're recruiting people, but you're not sponsoring them, I tell people it's like using a funnel to pour through the sieve. As fast as you bring them into the funnel, they go straight out the sieve. You know, the teeth strainer, for those of you who don't know what a sieve is, the teeth strainer, when you're using a colander, basically. And so if you're not actually sponsoring the people you bring into the business and teaching them and nurturing them and helping them grow, not just a business, but to grow as people, you're going to be doing it all over again, over and over. And you're going to say, why is my business not growing? And it's because you haven't learned how to reach down up underneath those people that you're bringing into the business. And again, I can't even remember where I heard this, but I say it all the time. We are responsible to our new distributors, but we are not responsible for them. So there's definitely a balance. Be sure that you are doing the do things, as David says. Be sure that you're doing the do things when you sponsor somebody into the business. Don't just bring them in and turn them loose. Be sure that you hold their hand. Another analogy that I like to use, Doug, is playing tennis. When you play tennis, you've got 3 balls, right? 3 balls you take out of the little canister, and I'm going to loft that ball on the other side of the court. And as long as they swing the racket, they don't have to hit the ball. As long as they swing the racket, I'm going to be right there with them. I'm going to say, no, this is how you do it. No, come back and let's try this way. As long as there's effort being put forth by your new distributors, you should be right there beside them. And I think that's another thing that leaders do that a lot of people miss is what are you doing for your new people to help them get up and off the ground? And it's like you said, once you sponsor your very first person, you are a leader. You have to have them following you, so you have to learn how to do that. And I was telling somebody the other day, you can only push 2 people. You can lead an army. So it's not about pushing people, it's about being the leader that you need to be, doing the things that you need to do because your people will do what you do. Teach them the system in your actions. Be the example so that they see all you do is invite people. You don't do presentations for your new people, even if you're a leader. Your presentations need to come from somewhere else. And then you use somebody in your active engaged upline or even crossline. You find somebody that's actively engaged to do your validations for you. And as leaders, we need to be doing that so that our people will be doing that. Not because we're not capable, but if you have a new guy that you're sponsoring into the business, he needs to know he doesn't have to know everything. Otherwise, he's going to have analysis paralysis. How many of you bring new people into the business that have analysis paralysis? I got to know what to do first. I can't go talk to anybody because I don't know what to say, or I don't have all the answers. If that's what you are duplicating, it means you're not using the system properly. Doug, do you have anything to add to that, just about the system and how to lead the team?
Well, Dee, my thoughts just going back to something you said a minute ago that you just hit the nail right on the head. Talk about attracting other leaders. So often, and I'm not saying this is wrong, but so often we have the mindset that you're going out and looking for that person that's going to help you get to the top. And so you're kind of on a hunt. And, if I could just have that person in my business, then we'd go to the top together. But rather than that, when you're talking about the importance of personal development, work on ourselves. Become that person that will attract those leaders rather than just going out and hunting for leaders. Because if you're not working on yourself, you can find a tremendous business person, a tremendous leader, but they may say, I don't want to be on your team. If you're not the leader that they need to be. So working on yourself and becoming that person that attracts leaders, I think that is such a key foundational statement. And then, yes, all you're doing is plugging people into the same system. And, we do a lot of conference calls, we do a lot of validation and power line calls, and, that's part of the system. And I find myself telling people, my wife Amy and I just plugged into the system. It's been over 4 years ago, July of 2009. We got started, and we found out, through the training that there is a system already in place. We don't have to reinvent that. So no one should go out and try to do something their own way. It is so important that you just simply plug into the system, and that's where the duplication begins. You share your story. You invite people to take a look at information. You're certainly not overloading their wagons with all the information that you know, because they can make a judgment right then and there on the spot and not even want to look at information. So, you definitely want the information to do that presentation for you. And then as you work together as a team, I like what you said, Dee Dee, even as a leader, you're still using the team. Yeah, you're the ones that's doing a lot of the validation calls, the power line calls, and those are absolutely wonderful and they are necessary. But also, I love it when people that are leaders call me, and I know in their mind, they know the answer to the questions that people are asking, but they're still showing the power of the team, and that is so important. I'm sure people have heard, together, everyone achieves more is the acronym for the word team. Together, everyone achieves more, and we've seen that to be so true. And I've had people come back to me, as I'm sure you have, Dee Dee, that have said, wow, I love all the support that we have here in Zeta. It really is a team. We're all working well together. We're all, going the same direction together as a team. And so, with personal development and working as a team and plugging the system, wow, that's just so powerful to get every one of us to the top together.
Well, as you said that, I was just thinking about conversations that we had yesterday with some new distributors, and thinking about how important those power line calls are.
Mm-hmm.
We work on the system on the front end. We hammer that system: invitation, presentation, validation, invitation, presentation, validation, and we teach people that. But it is so important to do those power line calls, so those new distributors do feel like they have a team to work with. Mm-hmm. Never once have had a new distributor say, I really didn't appreciate those power line calls. That just didn't feel good to me. Never once.
Yeah.
So I think that, it goes back to you're responsible to your new distributor. You are responsible to sponsor, not to just enroll. So part of that sponsoring is to connect them with the team. And Doug, I think we're pretty close to the end of our time. I always enjoy tag team because, we get to bounce back and forth, and you always have good thoughts that I don't have, and we just kind of can share different things. So I appreciate you being on the call with me this morning. Appreciate everybody taking the time out of their busy Friday morning. What I would encourage everybody to do, it is Freedom Friday. It is the end of the period. Don't just think about yourself. You might already be Team 250 qualified, but what about your new guy? What about your team members? Are you reaching out to them and saying, what can I do to help you? Have you got any validation calls that we can do to help push you to Team 250 today? What can I do to help you hit that next pin rank? As we work towards convention, we need to be thinking towards these things. Help these new folks that are coming in to convention, and people that have been with us for a while, help them strive to get to the next pin rank for that recognition in October. With that, Doug, thank you for joining me, and I'm going to open up the line.
All right, thank you. It's been a privilege to educate others. So, hope you guys have a great day. Great call.